All right, hello once again. This is Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College, and as part of the Rankin Technical College EWD 1000 Web Development Technologies course, I've been going through and creating a series of video presentations that are based on the Mozilla Developer Network Learn Web Development series. Believe it or not, I'm almost to the end. I'm on the server-side programming portion, and we're in the Express Node.js, and we're in part 3, I believe. Yep, we're in part 3 of this local library tutorial. And I think I left off last time right here, setting up the Mongodb database. All right, it says now that we understand what Mongoose can do and how we want to design our models, it's time to go and do some work. The first thing we want to do is set up a Mongodb database. Now, I have already set Atlas up because I did it last semester. All right, so I've already got it up on the system. In fact, I've been doing a little bit of work on it just to go back and kind of refresh myself with it, okay? Now, if for some reason we did not want to do that, we could go back and just basically use MongoDB, a local version, run it on our own machine, but we're not going to do that. So I did go in and create the account. It's a little bit different from the way that it used to be. And it says after you log in, you're taken to the home screen, which is right there. Okay, I guess it is there. So, right now it says I'm in this sandbox, and I'm in this thing where I created something for using the Mongo Database University class. So let's see. Let's go to all organizations here. And it's interesting because I thought I had another organization for Rankin Technical College. So I'll tell you what, I'll create one. All right, so name your organization. How about that? Rankin Technical College. All right. And I'm going to be using DB Atlas, so let's see. And I think I can just go in and create the organization. Your members' permissions, yeah, I think that's all okay. All right, so I see Rankin Technical College up there right now. And it says find a project. Well, we don't have a project yet. My guess is we're going to be creating one shortly. So let's take a look. Oops, keep that up in there. And should have put that in a new tab, and I didn't. So let's go back in and we'll type in Learn Web Development here. Come back over to here. We'll find where we're getting to. Just a second. So again, I'm in here, and I'm in part 3, using a database with Mongoose. Okay. And we're up to the, come on, setting up Mongoose database. Okay. So let's see, after logging in, you'll be taken to the home screen. Click the Build a Cluster button. So let's see where we are here. All right. What I will want to do in just a minute is create a new project, I'm sure. So I've done all this stuff that they talk about in here. So they're telling us to click the collections button. Well, let's see if we create a new project, and I'm just going to call this local-library, and I'll click next, add members and set permissions, just create the project. Okay, there we are. So as it says, I guess we'll want to come in here and click the Build a Cluster button. Again, I'm just going to follow their lead here. All right. It says this will open the new cluster button. Now it says here we want to choose the new option, and it says select any region marked free tier available. All right. So we want to come in here, and we want to make sure we choose this one that's here, create a cluster right there. Now this should all be set up by default. AWS is fine. These are just basically different cloud providers you can have. Okay. I think Northern Virginia, US East is probably, I mean, we're in the Midwest, but I think we're closer to Virginia than we are to Oregon. So I'm just going to click create the cluster. But first, I don't know if they tell us to give it a name, because cluster 0 is not a good name. Let's, kind of a stupid name, but let's just call this LL cluster for local library cluster. Okay, create cluster. All right, that brings us to right here, and I think we want to click collections next. Oh, it's being created, and it says here, and it does. I've got a fairly fast connection at my house, but it says it'll take between 1 to 3 minutes. Mine actually took more than that, but we're sitting fine for time. So I did go through here. I clicked the build a cluster button. I had to first create a project, which I just call local library. And again, you should be able to call this anything basically that you want. And I clicked the button for build a cluster. I accepted all of the defaults here, except I did go down at the bottom and I renamed mine LL cluster for local library cluster. And I chose the free option too. All right, it says click the collections button. I tried doing that, but it looked like it wasn't up and running yet. So it says we are deploying. It says my cluster is still being created, which is fine. So once it does come up, I'm going to click the collections button that you saw. And as it says, it should open up the collections section. I'll want to click the add my own data button, because we're not using a built-in database, it looks like. And we are to call this local library. And for the collection name, we are to call this collection 0. Okay. All right. And when we do that, it should bring up the collection screen. So I'm going to hold off for just a second until I get to that point. In fact, I think what I'll do is until this actually comes up, all right, I'm just going to pause the video. All right, I think I'm back. Let me click collections. All right. And as it said there, I clicked that. It opened up the collections section that you saw right there and right there. Click the add my own data button. Let me move this over. All right. So click the add my own data button. And again, it asks for a name of the database. Probably shouldn't have called that the same thing as my project, but it shouldn't hurt anything. And for the collection, they want us to call this collection 0. And create. All right. You will return to the collection screen with your database created. So let's see. There it is. Local library, collection 0. Click the Overview tab to return to the cluster overview. From the cluster overview screen, click the Connect button. This will open up the Connect to Cluster screen. Connect to Cluster. add a connection IP address. Well, this is the stuff that's available. It looks like we want to click the allow access from anywhere. And it opens up IP address 0.0.0.0, which means any machine. It says click the add IP address button. Now, as it says, this is not a best practice. We're doing it because we're basically just creating a practice problem for all of us to use, okay? All right. Enter a username and a password and click Create MongoDB User button. I'll put in here JP Scott. All right. And click the Create User button. Okay. If you have completed the 2 previous steps, the button Choose a Connection Method will turn green. And it did. You should now be able to access the Choose a Connection Method tab. It says click the Connect Your Application option. This will open the Connect screen. Click the Copy button to copy the connection string. Okay, copied. Save this string somewhere safe. Well, let's just open up a new window and we'll put it in here. There it is. All right. Update the password with your user's password. And I'll tell you what, I'll stop for just a second so I don't have to show anybody that. And replace test with local library. Well, let's do that first. And I think it's that one that we want to replace with this. Okay. And let's see. Where it's got password in there, they want me to put in my password. So I'll tell you what. Let's see if I do this. I'm not going to be able to hide it. So let me pause. All right, I put that in. It says you now have created the database and have a URL that looks something like this. This will look something like, and that's fine. All right. In fact, let me double check. So I will double check by, again, very quickly pausing and looking at mine to make sure it looks similar to this. And yes, basically, this is what that looks like. Now, it looks like what's left to do here is we have to connect to MongoDB, define our schema, our different models. All right, and that'll be about it. So I'm going to stop right here and resume with the Express tutorial part 3 in just a couple moments, as soon as I get back to where I was. So I'm up to the install Mongoose. I'll pick it up there in the next lecture.